friends. Welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 87. Today is Friday, July 28th. I am Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and I'm wearing red today, excuse me, because it is very hot here. It is the hottest day so far this year. Right now, the temperature is, I think, 96 outside. The forecast was for tomorrow to be even hotter, but that has moderated, which matters in something I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. I'm just getting my notes open here. Flosstube means cross stitch primarily, and variety show means something else. And so we'll find out what that turns out to be. Let's start with Flosstube, cross stitch. This is Snippet Tiger Stare by Charting Creations. This is a full coverage piece. I'm doing it on 18 count sand, Aida, Lugana, with the called for DMC. I think there are 89 colors. And this is how far I've gotten. Now, when I was showing this before, my thought was that I would color complete the black. But from where I got over there in the center, under my chin, right about there, to the next place that there is black would involve enough counting that I didn't want to do it, because if I get off, it'll be very annoying. So instead I went back, after I did as much black as I could, I went back and started working there. And so since the last time you've seen this, which has been a few weeks, I've done about 1,000 stitches. My goal for this year on this piece was, I think, 12,000, and I'm about 800, 600 maybe behind, which is fine because my goals are not really goals. They are ideas, they're thoughts. And I'm not a stickler. And I've done other things that I hadn't originally planned to do, so there's that. Hannah Campbell, 1838. This is Hands Across the Sea. Really beautiful, interesting chart. And you may recall, if you've watched previous videos, that I did some testing of the over one. There's a lot of over one stitching, and I did testing over one and decided I need to do it on 36 count because otherwise I would go crazy. And I got the thread pack of 103s, decided that was not enough coverage, so I got the thread pack of Soie d'Argent, and that is, I think, perfect. So I'm going to use 103s for the over one, and this is 36 count Ballet slippers by Fox and Rabbit. Very nice. It's a pink, slightly pink toned brownish color, and I think it's going to be quite nice with this sampler. Now that I'm using the different silk, I am enjoying it. I will say though, my hands don't feel dry to me in the summer, but apparently they're just rough enough to catch on that silk thread, which is annoying because I don't want to put lotion on them while I'm stitching, because then I'll have lotion in my stitching, which I don't want. So not sure how to manage that, but it does make me think I won't be stitching much on that in the winter, because my hands are definitely dry in the winter, even though I do a lot of moisturizer on them. So we'll see how that works. This is the Nativity Scene by Stitchy Princess, Etsy shop. She's from Ukraine. I've done at least one other thing by her, which was the Winter Fox scene. So this is obviously a nativity scene. We have shepherds and kings down here, Mary and Joseph and the baby, angels, animals. I just think it's really cute. I love the stylized nature of it. And I work on this one weekend a month. I work on it the third weekend a month, and you can follow this on Instagram with the hashtag Nativity Sal. That's also in the description box. I am doing this on 18 count light blue Aida with the called for DMC. And this time I finished the stable. I did the other palm tree. I did a lot of Joseph. I think I hadn't done much of him, if any. And I have 2,000 stitches to go, maybe. I'm not going to finish it next month, probably. But it's fun to work on. And when this is done, so the third weekend of the month is for Christmas stitching, we're going to keep, Leslie and I, are going to keep Nativity Sal as our hashtag and just move on to other projects whenever we finish something. And I have at least one other Christmas project that I would like to start at that point. The other thing another thing I'll show you is Mathilde, Hands Across the Sea. This was from the Letters from Europe birthday box that Nicola Parkman curated, and I was fortunate enough to get one. And this is how far I've gotten. Now my concern is, will I run out of red thread, because this is what I have left. So I decided that my real curiosity of knowing that was going to drive me to finish the border, which, as you see, I'm almost done. And I have one more motif in red, which is a key that goes over here, and then the cartouche in the center that goes around her name has red in it. So I have this key, that cartouche. Oh, there's a tiny, no, that's blue. Yeah, that's all. Finishing the border. I think it'll work. I think it'll be okay. And if it isn't, I have some other red of that 103 silk. I really I'm enjoying this very much. And I like the look of it. From now on, I'll finish that red just because I'm dying of curiosity, and then of course it'll be blue primarily for the rest of it. I think it's quite nice. I like those little people right there in blue. And I call that a teapot. I actually think it's a hot chocolate pot. What do you think? What do you think that is? So that is the cross stitch that I'm going to show that I've worked on. I also worked on Winter Rose Manor, continuing with the windows, but really not that much, so I'm not going to show it. I'll show it next time. I planned to keep going on the house because it's a lot of stitching, but I didn't get much time on it, and there's two reasons for that, maybe three. Two reasons that I can think of. One is because I've been working on Anne's quilt. I am really only some math away from putting together the main section of it, and when that's done, I will quilt it and then bind it, because that will be done. I can't remember if I've mentioned, because I would have normally saved this for a galloping horse video, so those of you who watch those might hear some of this the second time. But in consultation with her when I was up visiting her a couple weeks ago, we decided that it would be easier and better to actually have the pillow cover section as its own quilt, essentially. It's like a bed runner, except it's to go over the pillows. And I know probably 85% of how that's going to be laid out. I just have to do it. I've cut some of the pieces for the blocks that will be in it, and I just have to do it. Now, I was going to spend some time upstairs in the sewing room today, except that it's so hot, I would have to crank the air conditioner down probably an hour and a half before I plan to go up there in order to be somewhat comfortable And it's just not worth it. I'll wait until I might have a little time tomorrow. Yeah. So what else is going on? What do we have to cover for the variety show today? Well, a couple of things. One is that tomorrow, Byron and I are going to have some people over for dinner. And in thinking about what we're going to serve, it's a birthday dinner for two of our guests whose birthdays are 5 days apart in July. We decided we were going to serve cheesecake because it's a cold dessert. And I mean, I don't know if you can call cheesecake refreshing because it's so rich, but I like my recipe for cheesecake. And as a special treat for you, in the description field, I've put my recipe in there. It is a New York style cheesecake in that it's a dense, sort of plain cream cheese flavored cheesecake. Not much else. It's a very simple, straightforward recipe, but it's thinner than what you would get at Cheesecake Factory or most restaurants. It uses 2 packages of cream cheese. I've seen other recipes that use 3 packages. It uses 3 eggs. I've seen other recipes using 6 eggs. It is a recipe actually that I got from my mother, who got it from my aunt, Doris, who was a home economics major at Cornell University. And I mean, back in those days, so if she were alive, Aunt Doris would be possibly 100 or in her very late 90s. And she, in those days, you could get a home economics college degree. A woman who wanted to go to college, that was one of her options. And that's what Aunt Doris did. And she was an excellent cook. So I don't know if she developed this recipe or she got it in one of her classes, but it's always been associated with her. And it's one of the desserts that I make. And Byron makes it. Byron and I did it together today, actually. So that's what we're having for dessert. The recipe is below. Cheesecake, just sort of ordinary cheesecake, is one of the simplest, easiest desserts to make. It truly is. So don't be intimidated. You can do it. Now this one doesn't use a bain-marie. You just bake it in the oven. I don't care if it splits, which is one of the reasons people use a water bath. I don't care. And you put the sour cream topping on the top of it, which covers up any crevices that might have developed. Especially in the testing of it, I test it by putting a knife in, and that pretty much guarantees that there's going to be a split. And I don't care, because it tastes delicious whether it's split or not. It has a dense rather than soft texture, I would say. So, very good. Now, at least one of my viewers will remember that this was our traditional New Year's Eve dessert way back when my viewer's family, Leslie's family, used to come to our house for New Year's Eve. This would have been when I was in high school. And they would come and, around 8 o'clock in the evening, and we would play some games, and we would chat, and then we would have dessert, and then at the stroke of midnight, we would have champagne. And once Byron and I were married, which was in 1982, I have something to say about that in a minute also, Byron was in charge of measuring out the champagne into 9 exact equal portions, because that was the number of people we had, and measuring out the cheesecake into 9 exact equal portions. So I don't know if there had been more weddings and people coming to that event. I don't know what we would have done, because heavens. So anyway, that was fun. One of the games we played was a dictionary game, which I think I've mentioned on this channel before. At some point I'll talk more about that. It's a pretty fun party game. I was going to say it's a great party game. It is a great party game for the right group. but anyway. And speaking of Leslie, reminds me another thing I've been working on this week is the two of us have been working on our plans for our trip to England in a couple of months. In fact, our conference starts 2 months from tomorrow. We have our hotel reservation in London now. We have 2 different guides organized for our 2 days in the Cotswolds. That's our tourist days. We haven't figured out some things. Some of them are on my little index card assignments. Some are on Leslie's. I'm looking up these things, looking at these cards. And, you know, it's falling into place. I mean, it will fall into place. I don't feel that it's fallen into place yet. But I think we have more of a handle on what we want to do and how we'll spend our time. Now, let me say a word about our anniversary, which was this past weekend, or past Monday, July 24th, 1982, Byron and I got married. And I'll put a picture up of us on our wedding day when we were 41 years younger and a number of pounds lighter. And it's, you know, when I think about it, it is pretty remarkable that we've been married 41 years. Many people don't make it that long, either because one of the spouses dies or because of divorce or because they got married later. And there aren't 41 years, 41 years haven't passed yet, but we have been married 41 years. So our anniversary was Monday, and you know that I'm quite interested in Sudoku, and I follow the YouTube channel Cracking the Cryptic, which is run by 2 British men, Simon Anthony and Mark Goodliffe. And I actually help with things in the channel. About a year ago-ish, I got in touch and said, you know, I'm retired, I have these skills, I love the channel, and I'd love to do something to support the channel. And over the past couple of years, past year, number of months, I have been able to do a few things, you know, editorially, administratively, helping them a tiny bit. And Scott, separate side of this story, Scott is interested in this channel, he's interested in Sudoku, and he has created a few Sudoku puzzles. So one he created earlier this year, and I thought it was good and it was hard, and I suggested that he send it to them because maybe they would do it on the channel. And so I was pretty sure he had sent it in, and you know, maybe they'll do it and maybe they won't. They get a lot of submissions. Well, we were waiting to meet some friends for dinner, and I tuned into the channel on my phone. I just opened it up on my phone on YouTube to see what puzzle Mark was doing tonight. And lo and behold, he was doing Scott's puzzle, and he was doing it because it was our wedding anniversary, which Scott had submitted it. So that was just thrilling. And as Byron said, every anniversary we have going forward, we will look back at this and say, I remember the time that Scott's Sudoku puzzle was solved on this major Sudoku YouTube channel by Mark Goodliffe, the person that Emily works with. And it was so fun to see that. And Mark was very complimentary of me and of Scott and our family and all. And anyway, if you want to check that out, I'll put in the description field below the name of the video. It's hard in YouTube to search for something by date, but it was from Monday night. It was Mark's video, so the one that appeared at in the Eastern time, it's a 6 p.m. time slot. The later of the 2 videos, the earlier one is by Simon Anthony, and his videos show up at 3:30 Eastern time, but this was the later one, and couldn't be more thrilled about that. Speaking of Sudoku, the final Is that true? Yes, the final weekend of the year of the Sudoku Grand Prix is next weekend. So I will be doing that next weekend. And that'll be it. That's the last weekend of the year, because then they have the Sudoku Grand Prix championships take place at the World Sudoku Championships, which are in mid-October this year in Toronto. No, I will not be competing. Yeah, I think the US team is chosen. There may be a US championship, but I will not be competing. Though, of course, I love it, and I have done better this year by quite a margin than last year, so that's fun. So, what else do I want to talk about? Well, let me talk a little bit about a couple of things. First of all, last week, I talked about this John James short beading tapestry pointed needles that Nicola Parkman had recommended when you're working with 103 or Soie Surfine, which I don't have any of that, but so this is the size 12, which is the smaller of the two sizes that I got. I got the 10 and the 12. And when I was working on Mathilde today, I thought, I should try that needle because I'm working on 20 count Aida. Oh, that's right, this is 20 count Just the Ticket by Tabby Cat Linens, 20 count Aida. So I'm working on 20 count, which is equivalent to 40 count, which is where this 103 threads start to be appropriate. And I thought, well, let me try it, because definitely one of the problems is that I have trouble with the thread coming out of the needle eye when I use size 28 regular tapestry needles. So I was happy to give that a try, and it works well. I like it. I was concerned I wouldn't be able to thread it because the eye is, well, it's bigger than a regular sewing needle, but it's not as big, of course, as a tapestry needle, or what would be the point. I do feel that these are flexible needles. I mean, even just finding the hole, I'm underneath the fabric and I'm moving the needle along, finding the hole, I feel that needle bending. So it's really quite flexible, but it's okay. It doesn't feel like it's flopping under there. It's fine. So anyway, that is an interesting thing. The other thing is, some of you will know what this is. I saw this mentioned on Facebook somewhere. Some person on Facebook mentioned this as a case to carry this light, this magnifying light that I have, and I got one. I mean, as soon as I saw it, I ordered one, and it is, I think, going to be great. Now, the case itself is pretty light. In this case, I realize how heavy that light is. Because the base is heavy, and the base has to be heavy or the whole thing would tip over. It would not balance well. But the light fits down here, and there's sort of nooks and crannies around the light. Since it's made for a computer keyboard, which is, uniformly thick throughout. And up here, this part of it will hold the charging cable and a block. But you can see maybe it's about an inch, a little more than an inch thick on each side. So there's quite a bit of space in there, which of course you wouldn't want to waste if you're packing your suitcase. So I think that in that upper compartment, I could easily fit a little pouch with scissors and spare needles and things of that sort that I might want to have with me. And other things. I can fit, you know, socks and underwear up there that of course I would take out when I was heading to the stitching room. But that I think this is going to be good. I was thinking of making something, and I have carried that lamp. I mean, when we went to Canada, I just carried the lamp loose in my suitcase, but I think it's better in that, and it has little handles. So I think it's better in there. I could fit, I don't know, we'll see. I imagine I'll still be bringing a stitching project, because yes, I believe that I will be receiving a project there, but I don't know that I would want to work on it. You know, I want to take something that's simpler, and I'm thinking it will be another one of the samplers from the red Letters from Europe box, because that is it's just more straightforward, fewer colors and all of that. So that I'm pretty sure is what I'll be choosing to take. Now, what else? What else should I talk about? I said it was hot. We're under a heat advisory here. Talked about the cheesecake, which I'm looking over there. It's cooling on the counter. One tip, and I didn't, this is not in my notes. I should add it. To put the cheesecake in the refrigerator. So the problem with refrigerating something like this is that even after it's fully cool, it gives off moisture. And if you just cover this with plastic wrap, your pan with plastic wrap, you get rain on top of it, and then it spoils the appearance of the sour cream topping. So what I do is I put a plate, I use a plate to cover it, but I put a piece of paper towel between the plate and the pan. And what that means is that as the water vapor rises out of the cheesecake, it hits the plate, which is cool, especially in the refrigerator, and it condenses, but the paper towel absorbs it. And therefore I don't get rain on the surface of the cheesecake. So that is what I do. And I think I made that up. I don't think my mother did that. I think I created that idea, figured that out. She might have possibly used a dish towel under a plate, maybe. So, you know, I can't picture it. What I do picture is she had an aluminum springform pan, and she put an aluminum lid that she would use on a pot, an aluminum flat lid on it. I don't know, but I hope that, so I'm kind of relieved that it's not going to be as hot tomorrow. We changed the menu to accommodate the fact it was too hot to run the oven a lot, so we are going to do most of our cooking on the grill. We're having cold salads, and because it's just too darn hot, as the old song says. I think that this is everything I planned to talk about. So it's nearly the end of July. I hope you have had a good month of stitching or vacationing or other crafts, reading, whatever you have been up to. And I hope that you'll have a great start to August in the next several days. And I plan, Lord willing, to do a video next week. And we'll just see what that amounts to. Thanks so much for joining me. I do appreciate it. If you aren't a subscriber, it would be great if you subscribed. Apparently, YouTube likes that. And if you, by the way, I mentioned last week, if you are going to the Great British Sampler Weekend, please comment below. I'm looking forward to meeting you and to meeting many people. If you know people, your friends or other floss tubers who are going, I would love to know who they are so that I can look forward to meeting them as well. Thanks so much, and many blessings to you, friends.